Aachen was the first German city that was reached by the Allied armies in 1944. It was of no real strategic importance, but it held great psychological importance because it was the first German city that was to be fought for. Germany was at that time protected by some 230,000 troops manning the Siegfried Line. The city of Aachen was protected by a 10-mile deep defensive system of bunkers, dragon's teeth, a lot of fighting positions and minefields, as well as a very dense forest that was surrounding the city. It was ideal defensive terrain, and the Americans was going to pay a price for it. It is in that defensive zone I'm going to search for a missing bunker, as one of you have requested. The city of Aachen was defended by the 116th Panther Division under Gerhard von Schwerin. However, he wanted to surrender, not wanting to destroy the beautiful ancient city and risk all the civilians' lives that would inevitably be lost in city fighting. He was fired. Commander Gerhard Wilk was put in charge of the city's defenses, and the 20,000 soldiers positioned in and around the city to fight for it, including 11 tanks. It was the U.S. 1st Infantry Division that attacked, but they had severe supply problems, and eventually in October the 1st SS Leibstandarte showed up to defend the city as well. German units were under strength, and they were fitted by relatively new recruits. The general U.S. strategy was to surround the city. That happened in October, but it was costly. The city was at that point defended by 5,000 German soldiers from different units and branches, and it was very hard going for the U.S. Army to make it through the city center. It was the worst of house-to-house fighting, with artillery pieces firing point blank at the strongholds, and a lot of historical buildings were destroyed. On the 21st of October, the city fell, with over 10,000 soldiers on both sides having fallen. This also led to the Battle of the Hürtingen Forest, which was adjacent to Aachen. In Aachen, 6,500 German soldiers were taken prisoner. But I am going to focus on the forest surrounding Aachen, the defensive line of Aachen and Aachen Forest. There was a lot of bunkers here as well as in Hürtingen Forest that was all linked up, and they changed hands in the bitter fighting time after time, and for that reason, during the fighting, the U.S. engineers started blowing them up when they took possession of them, so they would not be back in German hands after a counterattack, and they would have to fight for them again. That is one of the main reasons why there are so few intact bunkers left in the forest around Aachen. Now, one of you sent me a note while I was on the road. "By the way," he said, "good friend of mine, there's a bunker in the forest of Aachen. See if you can find it." The note did not come with a coordinate, of course, so I figured, well, promise is promise, and I went hiking in the forest of Aachen to look for a bunker no one knew where it was. I thought for a minute there I was done. I thought I could just finally leave Holland, Belgium, France, Poland, find a cool restaurant with pretty waitresses, have a cigar and eat too much and maybe have a beer. But then my best friend writes me, "You know what? There's this cool bunker from the war fighting around Aachen. You're close to Aachen right now. Why don't you pop in the forest and see if you can find it? Send me some photos." Yeah, so the problem is no one seems to know exactly where it is, and the forest surrounding Aachen is dense. I'm gonna see if I can find a Regelbau. Now, in my quest for this so far unknown and unidentifiable bunker, did I mention that it just started raining? Did I mention I'm in the forest and rain really so stimulates the mosquitoes in an almost erotic way when I walk through a rainy forest? I believe we should go this way. And I'm basing that on, well, quite frankly, nothing whatsoever. So, we're going this way. Looking for the old Siegfried Line. Now, what makes this a little hard is I did not really read up on the battle lines for the Battle of Aachen before I got here. So, I will say that looks very period. Although it looks like unnatural rock, it does look like a marker stone. So I'm just looking at what the forest is going to tell me, because I'm just going by compass. I don't know where the battle lines were. I know there are remains of the old Siegfried line down here. There should be a railroad they should be protecting, but there's not really any map telling me where what is. So this is man-made, and so is the red paint. I don't care about the red paint. And here's, this looks, there.
Maybe we are on top.
Either that or this is the foundation for something that was raised up, but I don't know why anything would be. 2, 2, 1, 1. Well, we're on top of something.
From the style it could be.
Yeah, it doesn't look like a, it looks more like a support pillar, like you would put a radio antenna on. And it has, well, there's symmetrically placed. I later found out that this was probably one of the three-pronged watchtowers, several of which were positioned in the forest and of course destroyed during or after the war.
Yeah, maybe you're right, and there was steel inside here.
Yeah. Well, that means there would be, that means we're close to something, and there would be a reason to put something bigger, either to protect this.
Maybe this was something to watch out.
It could have been a watchtower. Cool thing about doing what I do is sometimes you run into cool people who decide to join you in your crazy ass quest to find something that may not exist anymore. He's a geologist, which is really cool because now he can confirm that there are no square shapes in nature, except where nature makes anomalies, and then there are square shapes. Did we even pass that little road? Well,
I think I remember.
well, we put a nice roof on here. There'll be a little summer house. We painted red, purple maybe. There's a little Regelbau for you. There you go, Martin. Let's shoot right into the sun. Well, that's pretty much what it looks like. But it's facing... Isn't that northeast? This had
If
a
I remember our map, then it should be northeast. If
Hey,
we allow,
I have a compass hanging on my bag. The entrance is southeast. That means whatever it did, it was doing in the other direction. And I'm guessing it's full of water, because in the forest, they always are. Alright, so, just in case I didn't record. So I have a nice little Regelbau sitting in here, and it has been in use. That was the emergency exit. There were some bunks. The interesting thing is behind this door, there's a room that leads into the right. And here is small room for close defense where the machine gun port's been bricked up. But what really is interesting is this has been used since the end of the war. On that, everything else seems to be original and not really restored, so I don't know why there's electricity in here. If I turn on the electricity, if anything had come on here, I would, there used to be a light. This is something, somebody used this since the end of the war. And then bricked it up.
coming from, that's also interesting.
I know, right?
Must be cable to somewhere.
There must have been something. I mean, why would you, what runs electricity out here? And I'm on top of the bloody thing. This is interesting. Oh, you had to find the easy way up. Ow.
Yeah. Leave it to identify anything.
I don't see anything. I mean, so obviously there's room, storage. It could have been I didn't see any communication cables really. There's not even a machine gun on the roof. There should have been a little ring, a little something. So this was not a defensive. This was for, and the back is pointing. The back is facing a wall. So this was literally for something. Communication, storage. Which means there should be something else around here. This road will probably always here, with a little road really in behind. So upon doing a little bit of research for this here bunker, I did find out that the Forest Service used it after the war, and that's why there's modern electricity that's been running to it. Also, this was a fighting position because in the little bricked up hole up here on the wall, there was actually a steel dome machine gun position. So this was a full dome bunker. Of course, they bricked it up here, and they bricked it up from the top as well, so you can walk upon it. When you get on the outside, there's no sign of it whatsoever. The dome is gone, and there's a plate put over it. But this is interesting because this is one of the very few remaining bunkers that were not demolished, that is completely intact, not destroyed, short of the dome missing, of course. So this is a very cool little piece of history. And not only that, it is the only existing bunker of this type left. Glad I found it, and now that I have tacked it on my GPS, I can find it again. Maybe the Forest Service will rent it to me as a summer house. All right, buddy. I found your bunker. Now I'm trying to figure out what it was connected to. It wouldn't be sitting out here alone. So I'm going to continue walking in the general direction of the front from it and see if I can find anything else on the forest floor. Once again, if you see this video, you know I lived, so. And then there's the weirdest tree stump I've ever seen. There's a little road over there. I want to go into the forest a little deeper because something's in here. Maybe. But it was a typical Regelbau that was set up with some sort of a, I don't know, it wasn't communications, so I don't see enough wires for that, but of course a lot of that would have been gone. A green nylon strap. This looks newer. There's been a storm here recently, which means a lot of trees were turned over. And of course with storms and earth moving, chicken wire, again it looks newer. I seem to be attracted to this clearing over here. I'm not entirely sure why, but and again, if that is a tree stump, that is the weirdest looking tree stump I ever seen. Alright. This is not a damn tree stump. This is a piece of something.
This would be a good, up here will be a good defensive position overlooking the valley. So we're back to this thing. It doesn't look like just a rock, but I don't see any rebar. I see pebbles sticking. And if this was blown from anywhere, it was blown from up there. I don't see anything up there. So we keep going towards this clearing over here because, well, it's in the open, no trees on it or in front of it. And if I was to put a sentry post overlooking the valley to our right, that's where I would put it. And here's another suspicious piece of man-made rock. And there's another, and there's another. I'm inclined to believe that something was blown up here. And I'm inclined to believe that it used to be in here. This just looks unnatural in shape and design. It's really hard to tell. Because honestly, there's nothing in here. This is just a tree that fell over and ferns that grew on top of it. It's still very strange. The rubble did come from somewhere. That is certain. Those pieces of cement with little pieces of stone embedded. Typical German World War II building. You know the feeling when you're standing right on top of something and you know it's something, but you can't see it. This is the only area that looks like this with this vegetation and this sparsely populated by trees. There's a little square clearing in here. I don't see anything in it though, except there's rubble laying around it. And there's been a drought here in Aachen for a while, except until the day I got here, so now everything is wet. Yippee-ki-yay. And here's the valley. And if there's a valley running here, then this would be considered a deer. Nope, but there's a deer. This would be considered an enemy approach route. I would imagine this would be a good way to approach and a good place to ambush from the hillsides. So I'm going to stay on the hill and see. Some tree clearing happened lately, which is not exactly helping what I'm doing. Something. Look at that. What's this? That is cement. So there's a piece of cement sitting there. And smaller pieces. Again, we are back to something was destroyed here. And if I could catch the deer, I could probably ask. I know what you're thinking. don't think so. But you know what? It has a shape to it. It's probably just a tree root. Let's just go up and have a look. Yeah, it's just an uprooted tree. Damn it. But see, if you were fighting your way up this hill, I would be sitting up there shooting down at you. Let's go up there, see what there is up there. This is where I would put up my defensive position, up on this ridge. And in here, we found the foundations for what looks like either communication tower, I don't think observation. Let's go up top of the ridge, go into the forest, and then walk down from there in the thick of it. That's where we'll find whatever might be here. Back there on the bench, I talked to a couple of older people that lived out here, and one of them was a World War II veteran, Belgium, and the German army, and his wife's family survived and fled Prussia to Denmark, and we had a very nice and long talk about the events that happened here, a lot of destruction in a beautiful city. There's a beautiful city here, I should be looking at it, and yet I'm out here in the forest. Oh well. I'm trying to find anything in this forest. There's something in there covered in tarps, but they're modern. It is a stunningly beautiful place. There's nothing like a forest like this. But make no mistake about it, when you get outside the capital cities in Europe, you are looking at castles, beautiful old buildings, small narrow cobblestone streets. It's absolutely gorgeous. It is worth a visit just to get away from what you're used to. And for those of you watching in America, you need to leave America for a little while and see the rest of the world. Now, as I'm making my way out through this beautiful city, I wanted to see one of the very large Hochbunkers, or shelters for the civilians that they built here. This would hold 2,000 people. It's today used as a music venue, so at least they're putting it to good use and not destroying it. But it is a fascinating, enormous structure that for some reason most of the people I asked for did not even know where it was. Several of these exist in Aachen today. Some have been put to good use, like this one. Now it's time to make my way out through town to find another secret phenomenal complex that I can show you.